Ron Patterson, University of Idaho Extension horticulture educator in Bonneville County. Indeterminate tomatoes can take up a lot of square footage in your garden, and so trellising them will help you to get more production per square foot. Here's a video I did on how to prune and trellis indeterminate tomatoes. Tomatoes are very popular in Idaho vegetable gardens, but the vines of indeterminate tomatoes can grow 10 to 20 feet long, even in eastern Idaho's short growing season. In warm tropical climates, tomatoes are a perennial and keep growing until something kills them. In Idaho, it's our freezing temperature that kills the tomatoes. Even in our shorter growing season, though, tomatoes produce a lot of branches and become difficult to manage. So let's get started with some basic anatomy of the tomato plant. Along the stems, there are fruiting trusses that contain a cluster of flowers. Determinate or bush-type tomato vines will end in a terminal fruiting bud, but the indeterminate tomato will continue to produce fruiting trusses all along the stem as long as it keeps growing. There are usually 3 leaves between each fruiting truss. The tomato leaf is quite large and attaches to the stem at the node. The angle between the stem and the leaf is called the leaf axil. This is where the suckers grow. Suckers are just another word for a branch off the main stem. The 2 main systems for indeterminate tomatoes are a single leader system or a 2-leader system. The single leader system is really quite simple. Just prune all the suckers and trellis that main stem. There will be fruiting trusses about every 3rd leaf as long as that vine keeps growing. Single leader tomatoes can be planted about 1 foot apart in a row. For the 2-leader system, it all starts with the first fruiting truss. The first sucker below each fruiting truss will always be the strongest. So for the 2-leader system, go to the first fruiting truss, then back down to the sucker just below it. That is the only sucker you keep. Break off all the suckers below that one, and all other suckers are removed from both stems throughout the growing season. So all you're left with is leaves and fruiting trusses along each one of those stems. 2-leader tomatoes can be planted about 2 feet apart in a row. Now to the trellis system. A trellis system for indeterminate tomatoes should support the plants from above. Tomato cages won't work well because the vines grow well beyond the support of the cage. Commercial growers have a line on a spool that they feed out as the plant gets taller and lay the lower stem along the ground after the fruit is harvested, but this only works if all the tomatoes in the row grow at about the same rate. For my system, a mix of tomato varieties, I run them to the top, then let them grow over the top and back down to the ground. Depending on growing temperatures, season length, and the variety, I may even start to trellis them back up to the top again. The simple trellis I use at home has a steel T-post every 4 feet. To each T-post, I tie a 6 foot 8 inch length of 1 inch Schedule 40 PVC pipe. There's nothing magical about the length except it allows me to make 3 uprights from an entire 20 foot length of PVC pipe without any waste. A saddle tee goes on top of each one of those uprights. Then I run a PVC pipe across the top and snap it into the saddle tees. The length of the trellis can be however long it needs to be. That's the structure of the trellis. To support the tomatoes, I tie a length of twine from the top of the trellis down to the ground for each stem, whether the 1-leader or 2-leader system is used. The vines need to be clipped or fastened to the twine. I used to tie loops into twine, but that takes a lot of time. Then I came across these plant clips. The clips have a couple of dog ears right at the hinge that pinch onto the twine and hold it in place, and then it clips around the stem so the stem is not damaged. I use 1 clip between each flower truss, and it should be placed directly below a leaf or flower truss so the weight of the plant is on the trellis and not on the stem. Now you will find that the base of the tomato does get quite large and can become restricted by the plant clip. They do make larger clips for that purpose, but I found that by that time the weight is being held by a higher clip and you can just remove those lower clips. As you go through the season, the older leaves will curl under and basically become useless. Those can be removed up to the fruiting truss to keep things clean. If you do this, you want to make sure to use a shade cloth. A shade cloth will help to keep the temperature in the optimum range for tomatoes, about 65 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit, and reduces the incidence of sun scald on the fruit. A 20% shade cloth should be adequate without reducing yields very much. So there you have it. There's just another way to have fun in your garden.